My name is Clara Mitchell, and I am 32 years old, living in the quaint town of Maplewood. There is something about this place that resonates with me. Perhaps it is the close-knit community or the familiar faces that I encounter on a daily basis. I am a regular at the local coffee shop, where the barista knows my order by heart, and I have my own favorite seat at the library. My life is filled with the simple joys of living in a small town, and I pride myself on being considerate and respectful to others. However, my peaceful routine was about to encounter a shake-up that I never saw coming. It all began on an ordinary Wednesday during my lunch break. I decided to run to the grocery store to grab a few essentials. I pulled into the parking lot feeling anxious, hoping to get back to work on time. The air was warm, and I could see families enjoying the day, but my focus quickly shifted when I approached an all-way stop. As I sat at the intersection, I noticed another car waiting on the opposite side, and we both came to a complete stop at the same time. I was signaling to turn right while the other vehicle intended to go straight. Then, out of nowhere, a black sports car came barreling in from my left. The woman driving it barely slowed down. She had this brazen confidence that was almost jaw-dropping as she zipped through the intersection, cutting off both me and the other driver like we were mere obstacles in her way. The sports car darted into the parking lot, completely disregarding the other cars and their rightful spaces. She didn't care who she disrupted. It was as if the world revolved around her. With a flourish, she parked her vehicle directly in a disabled parking space, flaunting her total disregard for rules. Taking a deep breath, I parked a little further away, my heart pounding with frustration. It was not just about the parking violation, it was about the principle of the matter. I went into the grocery store, but her audacious behavior nagged at me. It felt incredibly unjust that someone could flout the rules while everyone else complied. As I pushed my cart down the aisles, glance after glance drifted towards the parking lot, and sure enough, that black sports car was still there, obnoxiously occupying the disabled spot. I contemplated whether I should call the non-emergency police line to report her, but the thought of her speeding off before anything could be done made me hesitate. Eventually, I figured, why not let it go? Maybe this is how the universe works. Her karma would catch up with her sooner or later. However, my conscience hummed a different tune, a nagging urge to right a wrong that had me reconsidering. When I finished my shopping and headed back out, I was surprised to see a police car parked right in front of the store. My heart leaped with hope. As I walked by the officer, I could not resist the urge to ask him a question. I casually inquired if he checked the disabled parking spaces, and he replied that he did. Perfect, I thought. This was my moment to act. Without a second thought, I pointed towards the black sports car. I watched as he walked over, scanning the vehicle and confirming what I had observed. Then, like an avenging angel, he returned to his patrol car, expertly maneuvering it behind the woman's vehicle to block her in. As I walked away, I felt an unexpected wave of satisfaction wash over me. I had taken a small stand against someone who thought they were above the law. Yet as I drove back to the office, something inside me began to stir uneasily. What if this was not over? What if the woman in the black sports car had connections, and I had stirred a hornet's nest? My mind raced with possibilities, and worry mingled with a strange sense of exhilaration. Days turned into weeks, and I continued my routine, but my anxiety started growing. It was just a parking violation, yet it felt bigger. I did not see the black sports car and thought the episode was behind me, but one afternoon I was leaving work when I noticed a figure leaning against a familiar vehicle. There she was. The woman flashed me a look of pure condemnation, radiating a cold fury that pierced through me like ice. My heart sank. I could feel the weight of her presence, and she approached me with menacing intent. "You thought you could get away with that, didn't you?" she spat, her voice dripping with disdain. "You think you are a hero, but you just made a powerful enemy." The confrontation shook me to my core. I was just trying to do the right thing. I had not meant to get embroiled in something so tumultuous. I felt small and utterly helpless under her fiery gaze. I considered my previous decision. It felt like a disastrous miscalculation, and I panicked. However, as the days progressed, a newfound determination coursed through my veins. I refused to cower in fear. I knew I had to take action back. I decided that if she thought she could intimidate me, she was mistaken. I began gathering evidence of her previous reckless behavior, collecting witness accounts of her attitude and dangerous driving. It seemed everyone who had crossed her path wanted to see her put in her place. I even reached out to the local community, informing them of her illegal parking and showcasing how many lives she had disrupted. With every story shared and every signature gathered, I found a powerful ally in my own town. It was exhilarating, and I felt myself rising from the depths of despair. Finally, I decided the time had come to confront her again. Armed with the evidence, I spotted her parked in front of her house one evening. The moon glinted off that black sports car like a beacon. As I approached, she noticed me and braced herself, the tension between us palpable. "I warned you about making enemies," she sneered, but this time I stood my ground. I held up the evidence, photographs, witness statements, and a petition that had quickly gained momentum. "This ends today," I declared. The confrontation escalated, but instead of violence, I stood my ground. I spoke clearly, firmly, and passionately about justice and community responsibility. I told her that her days of defiance were numbered and that the town would not stand by while she continued her reckless behavior. To my surprise, the sheer brilliance of clarity and purpose in my speech shattered her bravado, and I could see the spark of fear flicker behind her eyes. The consequences of my action exploded, not only for her but for me as well. Suddenly, community members who once turned a blind eye began campaigning for stricter enforcement of parking laws. The woman became a pariah in our town, and while she may have believed she was above the law, the very existence of collective resistance brought her to her knees. I found myself at the center of a movement, and it felt powerful. In the aftermath, I gained newfound respect from my peers. People recognized me not just as Clara Mitchell, but as the woman who stood for justice. I had taken a stand, faced my fears, and emerged victorious. As I sat in my favorite coffee shop, I took a moment to reflect on how much I had changed. The quiet strength that had been simmering inside of me transformed into roaring confidence. My normal had shifted, but in a way that felt necessary and right. Looking out of the window, I saw a little girl helping her grandmother navigate the parking lot, and I thought about how the smallest actions could lead to monumental changes. Even as new challenges loom on the horizon, I knew I had the courage to face them head-on. And as for that black sports car, it was gone, a distant memory that had sparked a fire within me, a reminder that sometimes it takes a small act of defiance to create a wave of change.